Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 34th Annual Great Lakes Day. Great Lakes Day is sponsored by Michigan Sea Grant, Michigan State University Institute of Water Research, Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, and MSU Extension as a part of A&R Week at Michigan State University. My name is Angela Scapini, and I'll be your MC for the day. Next, we have Adam Arend, Coastal Community Development Coordinator with Michigan Coastal Management Program, Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, presenting the Michigan Coastal Management Program's Pathway to Resilience. Mr. Adam Arend serves as a Coastal Community Development Coordinator, or CCDC, at the Michigan Coastal Management Program. As the CCDC, he promotes community resiliency along the coasts of the Great Lakes through engagement, grant management, and resilient community planning initiatives like the Coastal Leadership Academy. He's committed to helping Michigan coastal communities achieve resilience through the Michigan Coastal Management Program's Pathway to Resilience. He has worked in several different positions around the Great Lakes, including student consultant with For Love of Water and the Blue Communities Initiative, research assistant on a Great Lakes Sustainability Indicators project with the University of Michigan Graham Sustainability Institute, and as a J. Philip Keeler Fellow at the Wisconsin Sea Grant and the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program. Mr. Arend earned a Master of Science in Environmental Policy and Planning at the University of Michigan School for Environment and Sustainability, and a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Science at Ave Maria University. Please welcome Mr. Arend.
Thank you, Angela. All right, so again, Adam Arend, Michigan Coastal Management Program, and I'm here to talk to you all about our program's Pathway to Resilience. So we like to start off all our presentations in our program with this beautiful satellite view of the state of Michigan to show our connection to the Great Lakes. We are surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, making the Michigan Coastal Management Program stewards of the nation's longest freshwater coastline. It's about 3,288 linear miles. Now, the Michigan Coastal Management Program was established in 1978, and it was authorized through the Coastal Zone Management Act, which is administered by our federal partners, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, commonly known as their acronym NOAA. Now, our program is part of a larger network of coastal management programs. In fact, the national program consists of a vast network of 35 states, islands, and territories with NOAA. So again, that's Great Lakes states, and that's your salty coasts. So aligned with the Coastal Zone Management Act, our program's mission is to protect, preserve, restore, enhance, and wisely develop our coastal natural resources and cultural heritage on the nation's longest freshwater coastline. And to achieve that mission, we plan for growth and change in coastal communities. We protect, preserve, restore, and enhance coastal ecosystems. And to achieve all that, we build partnerships to help better accomplish these goals. Now here we have our program's 5 focus areas, moving from left to right: community development, coastal hazards, coastal habitat, coastal waters, and public access. These focus areas align with NOAA's federal priorities. Now, staff in our program are assigned to one of these focus areas, and we each have statewide coverage of that particular focus area. So staff are responsible for managing grants and offering technical assistance that is specific to their focus area. So my focus area is in the community development realm, which means I manage grants that fund master plan updates, zoning ordinance review for resilient update, et cetera. And then my technical assistance, which I'll get into in a few slides, is focused on helping community leaders and planners become more knowledgeable of coastal resilience and community planning. So it is the goal of the Coastal Management Program to leverage resources, and partnerships to help build coastal community resilience. So on a national level, NOAA has identified the ability for coastal communities to prepare for and minimize risk to coastal hazards as one of the most important priorities to be addressed collectively. And community resilience is the ability of a coastal community to respond to and bounce back from the ever-changing conditions of living on the Great Lakes coast. And here on the right is a screen cap of the coastal communities that our program serves throughout the state. So I like to use this photo. This is a photo taken on Lake Michigan during the recent 2019-2020 high water period. So as we know, water levels in the Great Lakes ranged from record lows to record highs over the last 10 years, and it was quite a dramatic fluctuation. Maybe some of you remember the low water levels in 2012, 2013. And then, of course, not only was COVID a thing in 2020, but also record high water levels causing, honestly, a lot of coastal erosion and flooding that had not been seen in the state for decades, since probably the high water levels in the 1980s. Now, these significant changes in water levels have resulted in negative impacts to our coastal natural resources, property, and critical infrastructure. It really emphasized the need for our coastal communities to plan for and respond to these challenges in a resilient way. Now, to help coastal communities tackle that challenge, to help coastal communities become more resilient to those coastal hazards, the Coastal Management Program has devised what we call the pathway to resilience. So the pathway is a step-by-step process for communities to follow. And I'll just hit each kind of step here briefly and then spend a little more time diving into each one in the coming slides. So the first step is technical assistance, training, education through participating in a Michigan Coastal Management Program, Coastal Leadership Academy training, or attending other training opportunities like this webinar. The second step is conducting a sustainability self-assessment to identify gaps where resilience can be added into your master plan, into your community's master plan or ordinances. And then once those gaps have been identified, the next step is creating a resilient master plan chapter, or even updating your master plan with a more focus in resilience. And then once you've incorporated some resilient goals and objectives into your master plan, the next step is acting on those goals and objectives. And that's often adopting resilient policies or ordinances, such as setbacks or no-build zones. And then finally, our last step is developing and implementing on-the-ground projects that utilize nature-based solutions. So, for example, green infrastructure practices for stormwater management, habitat restoration projects, or natural shoreline protection. And like I said, I'm going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into a couple more of these, but I'm going to put a bigger emphasis on the first step, which is the technical assistance and training. And that is our Coastal Leadership Academy training. So our program has developed this particular technical training platform titled the Coastal Leadership Academy. And the purpose of the Academy is to develop a network of informed decision makers and planners, and to promote our program's pathway to resilience. So as part of our work to provide technical assistance, we have also developed a document called the Resilient Coastal Communities Planning Guide. And I got a screen grab of the title page there on the right. Now, this guide provides a deeper dive into coastal resiliency principles and developing resilient plans and ordinances. So like our Coastal Leadership Academy trainings, this guide is intended to create more informed community decision makers and planners. So this particular guide can be found in PDF form on our Resilient Coast website, which will be linked in the chat. You can also just Google search Michigan Coastal Management Program Resilient Coast, and that should take you right to our Resilient Coast page. So the Coastal Leadership Academy, we like to call it by its shorthand name, the CLA, is a one-day in-person workshop. It's designed as a flip-style learning experience for small community groups. Any interested parties are welcome to attend, but the target audience are those in the community with the power and influence to get projects done. So this can include local government staff, community planners, elected officials, or planning commission members. Now, the CLA is made up of presentations and small group discussion. The small group discussion centers around the question, what coastal hazards are in your community? What coastal hazards is your community experiencing? And what resilient actions can you take to help alleviate those coastal hazards? So to kind of accompany this Coastal Leadership Academy, we've also have developed, with the help of Michigan Sea Grant, the Building Coastal Resilience video series. Now this video series covers various topics, and we think each of these topics is critical to promoting coastal resilience. Now, the intent of these videos are to provide the baseline knowledge and to complement the Coastal Leadership Academy curriculum. Each video is pretty short, relatively speaking, about 10 minutes. So it'd probably take you about roughly an hour to get through the whole video series, but these links can also be found on our Resilient Coast webpage. All right, so just to give you a quick overview of the CLA modules. So there are 3 different modules that we intend to offer in the future. At the moment, we just have one that is currently being offered, and that's in the far left column here, the scenario-based planning and zoning workshop. So this workshop is based on our Resilient Communities Planning Guide, and it walks through resources and resilient principles that can be incorporated into community planning documents. One of the modules that's currently in development is the nature-based solutions to reduce coastal risks. So the nature-based solutions to reduce coastal risk module is will help communities identify and plan for solutions using nature-based solutions to manage stormwater and coastal flooding. Again, that one is currently under development, and we hope to begin offering that particular workshop at some point this year, maybe spring, summer, early fall. And then finally, our last module is the adaptation strategies for coastal hazards. So this particular workshop will focus on alternatives to tradition-hardened structures, and will provide education on coastal processes. So this particular workshop is going to actually accompany a tool that I'll talk about in a little bit. That tool is the Resilient Coastal Communities Adaptation Strategies Toolkit. Now the Adaptation Strategies workshop is expected to be available in the next year and a half, is when we hope to start offering that one. So diving deeper into the current workshop that we have right now that we're actively offering, this particular module has 4 objectives. So when participants leave a CLA plan and zoning module, they should be able to do 4 things. So they should be able to identify coastal hazards present in their community, understand and use data resources to support resilient community planning, identify stakeholders and context for action within their community, and identify resilient planning and zoning options to utilize in their community. So our upcoming nature-based solutions module. So this module will provide participants with an introduction to nature-based solutions. It will help participants to identify project planning considerations and implementation resources. And it will help participants identify nature-based solution practices that can work in their communities. So here I just have a real simple map of the locations of all the Coastal Leadership Academies that we've held to date. So since 2020, we've hosted a total of 7 Coastal Leadership Academies, and these have been attended by roughly 120 people, representing 19 different coastal counties. So, this map we hope will continue to grow as we hold more CLA workshops, especially with our 2 pending modules being completed in the upcoming 12 to 15 months. Now, right around the corner, we are hosting our next planning and zoning workshop this April. It's pending, but April 30th in Sheboygan, Michigan is the date for our next CLA. So if anyone out there in the audience is interested in attendance, you should have access to my email and might get dropped in the chat. I know there'll be some follow-up after this webinar, but please reach out. Tip of the Mid Watershed Council will be hosting us up in Sheboygan at the end of April. All right, so let's get back to that that graphic of the pathway to resilience. So I spent a little bit of time talking about the education component. That's ground one. That's ground zero. That's the beginning. You start with education, and then moving along that pathway, you've been to a Coastal Leadership Academy. You've gained some knowledge. We encourage communities to assess their master plans. So a while back, we funded the development of a sustainability self-assessment tool to help communities identify gaps in their master plans. I have a screen grab here of a portion of that tool, and this particular assessment has a set of benchmarks with descriptions to walk through a community's master plan. And this tool gives communities a sense of what's missing, what could be added to a master plan to make it more resilient to coastal hazards. This tool is available through the Land Information Access Association. Those are our partners that developed this tool, and can be found at resilientmichigan.org. You can also reach out to me if you're curious in getting a look at the tool. I can send you a PDF copy. And there's also a mini grant program that's associated with this tool. So there are funding opportunities to bring someone in to essentially run this tool on your community's master plan. All right. So with assessment results in hand, we encourage communities to apply for funding to add a resilient master plan chapter or to update their master plan chapter with an added focus on coastal resilience. We also encourage communities to develop and adopt policies that can make them more resilient to coastal hazards. Examples of this could be coastal overlay districts or building setbacks. And often, we are always encouraging communities. It's important that you keep the public engaged throughout. And then we've also found that some communities benefit from engineering shoreline assessments. So I'll talk about a couple projects here that we funded. So these 2 communities came to us, St. Joseph and Grand Haven, a little while back. And what St. Joseph wanted to do is they want to conduct an engineering study to reassess and establish setback from the coast in order to support a resilient ordinance update. So they wanted to create a special overlay district within their zoning ordinance. This particular setback provides protection not only to infrastructure, because houses, they can't be built right on top of the beach, so that when the high water levels come up, it's Lake Michigan's coming into their basement, leaking in their basement. But it also helps protect that public trust. So it helps protect that beach so that local citizens, local residents are able to walk up and down the beach. So kind of helps protect both the infrastructure and the shoreline. And then Grand Haven, they came to our program, received some funding to do something very similar. They also implemented an overlay district within their ordinance and included some coastal construction setback provisions. All right, and then the final step along the pathway is really encouraging that implementation. So, we don't want communities to just put a plan together and leave it on the shelf, so to speak. We want communities to be coming back and and acting on those goals, acting on those objectives that they've identified in their master plans. And so we're especially encouraging coastal communities to consider incorporating nature-based solutions into their communities to help with stormwater quantity management to slow the flow of coastal waters. Now, nature-based solutions are adaptation practices that use natural features or mimic natural processes to address hazards and enhance community resilience. Nature-based solutions offer a variety of benefits and co-benefits, and this multi-benefit approach allows communities to address their stormwater and flooding problems while also receiving additional environmental and community benefits. All right, so I just want to spend a couple slides here shifting to talk about our upcoming Resilient Coastal Communities Adaptation Strategies Toolkit. Yes, it's a mouthful. We like to refer to it as just our toolkit. And the goal of this toolkit is to provide communities with the knowledge and tools to proactively manage their shorelines. So the main components of this technical guidance are the main components to this toolkit are a technical guidance document and best management practice fact sheets. And together, these products will show how natural shorelines can be resilient and also provide alternatives to shoreline hardening practices. So diving a little deeper into the main work products of the toolkit, the technical guidance document will cover the many shoreline types we have in Michigan. Since our coastline is so diverse, there really is no one-size-fits-all approach. And this document will integrate the most current research of how coastal processes play out in the Great Lakes setting. This includes factors that drive beach recovery, as well as the impacts of shoreline hardening. The best management practices will provide both site-specific practices, as well as community-wide planning and zoning options, a couple of which I discussed previously. Now we're organizing these best management practices, or as shorthand as they're known, BMPs, around the different coastal hazards. And our first batch of BMP fact sheets will cover coastal erosion practices. And these fact sheets are expected to be finalized this year. And the BMPs that we provide will be permittable, nature-based alternatives to traditional hardened structures like seawalls and revetments, which we might be pretty used to seeing on the coast. Next up, we have BMPs for coastal flooding and stormwater, planning and policy, and then some point down the line, urban heat. So that's just a quick overview of our upcoming toolkit, and we're really excited to be launching this later this year. All right, so we've talked about this pathway, about how communities can engage with us on this pathway, but we also can engage with communities through financial assistance. So anything that I've talked about on the pathway that communities are interested in, they can come to us and they can apply for funding to host a Coastal Leadership Academy. They can apply for funding to create a Resilient Master Plan chapter, or to install nature-based solutions, or whatever other resilient coastal goals these communities have. So this grant funding is eligible for coastal communities, so local units of government, cities, villages, townships, regional planning agencies, educational institutions, tribal governments, and nonprofits, as long as the approved work is within our programmatic boundary. And we fund several different types of projects ranging from planning to low-cost construction to land conservation. This grant funding opportunity is available every year. We typically release our grant funding opportunity in October, and there's a mid-December application due date. We usually host a webinar that goes into this grant opportunity about mid-late October every year. So for those who are interested in that, you can reach out to me and I'll make sure you're in the loop for when that particular webinar will be hosted later this year. And then one final note is we have a unique funding opportunity available to us through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law competitive funding. This funding is specifically for habitat restoration and land acquisition projects. This federal funding opportunity is available to all coastal management programs and is very competitive. So funding is not guaranteed and funding is hard to come by, but each coastal program, ours included, can submit 3 projects every year to NOAA for the funding competition. The maximum amount of funding available is $6 million per project with no match funds required, and timeframes can range from 12 to 36 months, and projects have to be located in one of Michigan's coastal counties. The Michigan Coastal Management Program is putting out a funding opportunity next month to select up to 3 projects to submit to this year's federal funding competition. We're going to be looking for projects that will compete well on the national scale. This funding opportunity will be posted on our website once it is released next month. And again, you can just Google search Michigan Coastal Management Program, and that should take you to our main webpage. All right, so this is the coastal team. There are 7 of us, and we are more than happy to take grant-related, resilience-related questions that you might have. All our contacts can be found on our Resilient Coast webpage. And I really encourage you, if there are folks who represent coastal communities in the audience, if you have a coastal project, kind of maybe even not a fully formed idea, but even just something kind of you're just beginning to think about, reach out. We're always happy to talk with prospective grantees, and we can also help with any technical assistance that your community might need. And I want to thank everyone today for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to hearing from some of you in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Arendt.